Welcome to Modern Anarchy, the podcast exploring sex, relationships, and liberation. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole.
I tried to keep her quiet, but she's screaming inside of me. I tried to keep her hiding, oh, shut up. I tried to keep her quiet, but she's a wild, wild woman.
On today's episode, we have Dr. Frankie. Join us for a conversation all about releasing shame and embodying your erotic power. Together, we talk about stretching into your zone of the erotic, learning to tap back into play, and the importance of lube. Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to Modern Anarchy. I am so delighted to have all of you pleasure activists from around the world tuning in for another episode each Wednesday. My name is Dr. Nicole. I'm a sex and relationship psychotherapist providing psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, author of the Psychedelic Jealousy Guide, and founder of the Pleasure Practice, where I support individuals in crafting expansive sex lives and intimate relationships. Dear listener, stretching into your pleasure practice. This is something that I'm always talking about in my pleasure liberation groups that I run each year. We have the sexuality group in February and the relationship group starting at the end of August. And especially in the sexuality group, where we're unpacking how to have more pleasurable connection to your erotic self, one of the biggest things I'm teaching in that space is about the neuroscience, right? We know that what you focus on becomes your reality. And so if you're wanting more connection to your pleasure, more connection to your eroticism, your ability to play, what we know is that practice makes perfect. Quite literally, we have different neuronal pathways in the brain, and the more you fire and think that sort of thought, the easier and faster it becomes your reality of what you think, right? And so when you're wanting to tap back into pleasure, dear listener, I really want to invite you, like, hey, in this moment, what pleasure is around you? Is it the sound of my voice? Is it something that you can see as you're listening to this podcast? Can you feel the pleasure of a deep exhale? Because pleasure is all around us, right? There's so much when we slow down to notice and be present with the moment. And of course, there's so much going on in the world. There's so much going on in our minds. And so it is a meditative practice in that way. And I really want to invite you to build your pleasure practice. This is something that I have a full module for my pleasure liberation course about the art of building a pleasure practice. You know, you have to be present for that. You have to be able to learn how to play, right? And dear listener, wherever you're at, I just want to invite you to know that the most beautiful thing about building a pleasure practice is that it will change and expand over time. There may be days, weeks, months, years even where you're not connected to your pleasure, but the brain is malleable. We have neuroplasticity. The way that you think and feel can absolutely change. And it is so, so incredible that I get to bring amazing doctors, right, onto the show to talk about that and to really invite you to know that change is possible and that pleasure is absolutely possible. And I am so, so delighted that you are here learning and growing and expanding in your pleasure practice each week as you tune into the podcast. All right, dear listener, if you are ready to liberate your pleasure, you can explore my offerings and free resources at modernanarchypodcast.com, linked in the show notes below. And I want to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. You are supporting the long-term sustainability of the show, keeping this content free and accessible to all people. So thank you. And with that, dear listener, please know that I'm sending you all my love, and let's tune in to today's episode. Dear listener, there's a space already waiting for you where you are invited to let go of every old script about sex and relationships and begin living a life rooted in your pleasure, empowerment, and deep alignment. I'm Dr. Nicole, and this is your invitation to the Pleasure Liberation Groups, a transformative, educational, and deeply immersive experience designed for visionary individuals like you. Together, we'll gather in community to explore desire, expand relational wisdom, and embody the lives we're here to lead. Each session is woven with practices, teachings, and the kind of connection that makes real transformation possible. And I'll be right there with you, guiding the process with an embodied curriculum that supports both personal and collective liberation. This is your invitation into the next chapter of your erotic evolution. Say yes to your pleasure and visit modernanarchypodcast.com/pleasure practice to apply. And the first question that I ask each guest on the show is, how would you introduce yourself to the listeners?
My name is Dr. Frankie Bashan, and I'm a clinical psychologist, a board-certified sex therapist, and the CEO of a national matchmaking firm that focuses on LGBTQ plus folks.
Amazing. So delighted to have you in this space today. Thank you for joining me and all of the listeners.
Well, thank you. And thank you to all of your listeners for having me today. Excited to be here.
One of the big pieces of the show is always hearing a bit more about the personal journey of each person that comes into this space. And so I'd love if you could share about what made you so passionate about this topic.
I grew up in New York City. I was born in the 70s, late 70s, and really the 80s and 90s, around a lot going on in New York, like just being raised in an adult playground as a kid in New York with parents that were in the fashion industry, very preoccupied and busy. And I was this precocious kid who had a lot of freedom and was pretty much neglected, if we're going to be real about it in a way. Right.
Yeah.
But very loved people and loved to explore and experience. And I had a mom, my mom passed away, but my mother was a nudist and very sex positive back then. Like, even today, in today's standards, I think she would be considered somebody pretty progressive. And I felt very comfortable talking about sex. It was very normalized. Like masturbation was very normalized in my home.
Cool.
Yeah. And it was unusual. Like kids, a couple of times, like I've have play dates and it would somehow come up and the parent would talk to my mom about how, it's not okay, whatever it is. Kids are curious, right? I had books that were age appropriate description, like picture books that would describe what, the birds and the bees and all of that stuff. And at that point in time, it just families weren't really talking about it. Even today, right? In our society, people aren't talking about it like they should. So I feel like I grew up, in an environment that really fostered curiosity and sexual freedom.
Yes. Yay to that. That's amazing. So lucky.
Yeah, thanks. I feel really lucky. And I feel like it's an opportunity for me to serve in a way and support women, especially around just like body acceptance around desire, and also recognizing the challenges that we experience as an adult, like trying to figure out how to be intimate and how to ask for what we need. So I do a lot of work in my practice in those areas.
Yeah. And that's transformational work, right? So many people in the world hold so much shame around this topic. And there's lots of areas of suffering in the human experience, of course, but there is something very unique in our context about sex and the level of silence and repression that is so deep about this suffering.
Yeah. And it's like, is it safe, right, to talk about? And I think people are fearful of being put on blast and exposed. And there's a lot of that now, right? The consequences of taking the risk of being curious or, expressing one's needs and desires, there's greater risk, it feels like today. And it's interesting because we're surrounded with a ton of porn.
Yes.
Right? Like so much, it's almost like overstimulating too much. And yet we struggle to have conversations about what it is that we fantasize about and what we desire and masturbation and, but we can, we can in one click watch all sorts of scenes.
Yeah. An advertisement everywhere. It's like, here's this voluptuous look, come buy this product. Like, it is everywhere, right? But God forbid you embody that with power.
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. And you're a female, well, then you must be a whore, a slut, right? Like all of this messaging that we then, whether we like it or not, it somehow gets in there. We start to internalize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the power of, when you're parenting, having those books that were age appropriate, that's so liberating. Even the words that we use and the tone and the voice at which we speak to it, right? Oh, those are your private parts. We don't talk about that. We whisper about this topic. Or, this is, often your penis, right? That one, we can go very direct with that word, very, very easy. And then, for vulvas, this is a kitty, this is a pussy. Like, we don't use any sort of anatomical. And then that ripples out, years into so much complexity that, as a vulva owner myself, I couldn't even name the different areas of my vulva to a partner because I was never taught that.
You're right. Right. And I don't think sex education, even today in middle school, I think that's when it was, like, I don't even think that it's much different than it was when we were there.
Well, so I didn't even get sex ed.
I didn't either. I don't even remember it. But I know somebody who teaches sex ed in middle school, and the curriculum is not that different.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts. That hurts. And it's probably very dependent on the state too, right?
Yes.
And obviously private versus public schools. And then if you get into the religious, which is where I came from, I got abstinence only. I had a purity ring. They did the paper test. Have you heard that one?
No.
They put like a blue, horror stories. They put a blue piece of paper and a pink piece of paper together with glue and said, this is what happens when you have sex. And then they ripped the papers apart and it was all like shards of the paper, I'm like, and this is what happens when you try and leave that person. Who's going to want this broken piece of paper?
Wow. Now what does that do, right? How does a child interpret that?
Well, speaking to my lived experience at the time, I was a virgin. And so I had my purity ring and I was like, absolutely. Yeah. And then years later going through sexual trauma and then trying to stay with that person because I didn't want to have more sex with more people because I'd be more broken.
Oh
now that's something that I've done like a lot of work with purity and culture and trauma survivors from that. And that's actually a very common piece of that, of not wanting to extend your partner list because it feels more and more damaging. And so people often stay in situations that are not for them, not even safe or healthy. So I think that's at least one way that shows up. And and I just think back to even that moment, like I was a virgin in that moment, but how many other people had experienced trauma and were being told in that moment that they were broken? I mean, that's not trauma informed, that's trauma inducing, right? Like this is not okay. Yeah.
And then the fear, like you just said, so you stay in something that's not good for you.
Yeah. Isn't that heartbreaking? When I look back on that, I'm just like, oh my God, younger Nicole. Big hug, right?
Big hug. Or the shaming of like our natural desire to pleasure ourselves, like to be, because of religion or whatever, to not be encouraged to explore and get to know your body and yourself and your desires so that you can then show up in a relationship with somebody and know what feels good to you.
Right.
How do we figure that out? We don't figure that out under pressure with somebody else being intimate. Like that's what we're expecting, that we're going to be sexually intimate with somebody else and we're going to explore our body and figure it out.
Right. Absolutely. I'm curious, what do you say to that person who is in that space and struggling and feels so much guilt with that? How do you work with them and where do you start?
I mean, think about how many women have not had an orgasm.
Oh, my heart. No, I can't.
You know that stat? I can't. It is so high. Like, I think my brain just like refuses to memorize it.
It hurts. I can't.
It hurts. Let's just not even, it's high. And I think a part of that is because, right, the shame, like we're talking about that, but it's also because we haven't been able to relax enough and be present enough with ourselves privately to understand our bodies and our desires.
Yeah.
So what would I say, like in my practice? What do I do in situations like that?
Yeah.
I first say, like, we got to familiarize ourselves with our vulva. What's happening down there? Like, get in the mirror, right? Get a mirror, get in there, look, you know what I mean? Learn some of the names, right? Like all the different, just read about it. And then start to touch yourself, like with curiosity. And you're going to have thoughts that are possibly intrusive that come in, like, you know, shameful thoughts. And you just use mindfulness.
Right.
Learn a little bit about mindfulness and just let the thoughts come and pass, like a cloud in the sky, for example.
Yes.
And you take breaths and breathe and try to stay present and stay in it. Don't stop yourself, be in it.
Yeah.
Like commit to like 30 minutes. Like I'm gonna do this for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And what do I notice? I always say now sex toys are so accessible.
Yes.
And you can get them in a pretty, you know, private, a package that, you know, you can't tell it's a sex toy. Order something like a vibrator and play.
Yes.
Maybe order a couple different toys. You know, sometimes it's helpful to have some assistance in that way on your own and figure out how to get to a point of climax and what does that look like. And even if you don't reach that, right? But to feel like, wow, there's sensitivity on this side of my labia, for example. Like I am more sensitive. Most of us have an area that is like a button. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, right on the clit. Everybody has the same spot. Like you have, it's like, no, not the same for everybody. And labias or vulvas look different. How many?
Yes.
There's like hundreds of different variations in color and in, you know, size of the clit and in all of that. So familiarize ourselves. The more exposure we have, the less uncomfortable we are. It's habituation, right? Like, when we don't know, things are scary. The unknown is scary. That's what I do with people. I encourage them, and I'm right there with them. I may even suggest sex toys, some that I really appreciate, that I really like, some that I've heard from clients that are great. And I say, go explore. That's your homework.
Yeah. Learn to play. I love the mirror ritual. I think that's such a good place to start, right? To fully embrace and look at your full natural body.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, I think it's hard to stay with it because it brings up uncomfortable feelings for a lot of people. So even to endure that and like, know that like this is something that you're stretching yourself and you're challenging yourself and you feel like you've you're accomplishing something.
I love that word stretching. I'm always using that as a good way to describe this because stretching can be uncomfortable, but we're not hurting the muscle. We're not ripping the muscle. We're stretching it though, and you can feel that. And often there is that relief at the end. You've got that increased blood flow. You're feeling the flexibility, right? But when you're in it, you're like, ow, you know? And so
I appreciate you saying that because it's true.
Totally. Yeah. I teach yoga. This is probably a deep like connection to the practice. And yeah, like you said, I was thinking about the listener who was tuning in and hearing you talk about the pathway of helping people. And I wanted to ask that listener, like, at what point did your chest feel tight? You know, like at what point did you start to go, well, toys? Or is it the mirror? Or like, where did you start to feel that? And to take a moment to like ground yourself, take that deep breath, remind yourself that you're safe. And I appreciate the framework of mindfulness because there are so many systems that are so deeply internalized, right? When I was first trying to come out of purity culture, I had my whole, school, my whole educational experience there, my friends that were marrying pastors, my family, and all of that deeply existed inside my head. And we're relational creatures who need social support. And so when I think about taking the step outside of purity culture, I feel like I'm going to lose all of my community because I'm going to be judged. And that is extremely terrifying. And, at the time, I don't think we're that conscious as we think about that. But deep within the safety of our nervous system, that's really what we're coming up against is, will I be safe if I stretch beyond what society has told me to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's why, in a way, it's like if you can do that on your own in private, you start there and you build some confidence and a greater understanding. Then I think it helps us to be able to stand up to others that have really kind of whatever, different beliefs or fixed beliefs that are holding them back, and that then therefore they hold us back, to be able to confront that in a way that feels like informed.
Absolutely. You build a muscle resilience, right? And there's so much empowerment too in going from, looking at the mirror, feeling that discomfort, sitting with that, to then even pleasuring yourself in the mirror, really taking that next step. And even, can you seduce yourself in the mirror? When you look in there, can you feel your power and say, wow, I'm a hot, attractive human being? Like, that's the ideal state. Like, I want to get to that state with all of my clients, right? Where you really feel turned on by yourself.
Yes. Or even like you're listening to your breath as it, gets deeper, and like just noticing all of that, like staying connected to your senses, like being aware and feeling your sexy, getting your sexy on. I think it not that I know it starts with ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. And as you were saying with the sensation, right? We know there are so many of us who go through this world, myself included, always a growing journey, growth edges of needing to spend more time in the body, right? I have so much to do today. I have to go to work. I have all these pieces. I want to create this and that. And so much of that is in the cognitive, right? And so we're thinking, often not feeling. Some of us might have our shoulders up by our ears throughout the day, really not taking that deep breath. And then we come into the space of eroticism and sexuality and just want to feel everything. And that just doesn't make sense. We can't go through our whole day up in our heads and then be like, cool, now let me experience all pleasure and feel it all. We're not flexing that muscle.
Yeah, no. It's not a switch, right, that you turn on and off.
Exactly.
I think it's you've got to sort of work yourself into that state. And it takes time, and it takes a safe environment and confidence. And I think that we really need to work on building that up, and also just like self-acceptance. Like we are wired to connect with each other in this way. We are wired to masturbate, and it's there for a reason, right? This pleasure exists for a reason.
Exactly.
Right. So I think just recognizing that and allowing ourselves to go there I want to see it happen more. And that's why, I do the work, and I want to encourage, and then also be there, like learn. This is another thing that's interesting too, as a sex therapist, the theories and the interventions that I utilize even back like 20 years ago, a lot of them are the same. So yeah, I'm like, we could even evolve there. Like, so there's a lot. This is like, this is an area that needs so much growth, so much nurturing. Yeah, I'm here for it. And we need to do it together. Like, it's collectively, we've got to work together to move the needle.
Absolutely. I'm curious, if you were to step into that vision of that new way of working therapeutically, what do you see in that world?
Like more openness, more curiosity, and and less like constriction and judgment. And I can even, and I know, like, I'm in the Bay Area. We talked about this before we went on air, but like, I'm from New York City, the Bay Area. It's pretty, I mean, it's progressive, right? It's like I've been very fortunate to be exposed to, I mean, there's the Armory in San Francisco. I don't think it's still, I mean, now I think they shoot porn in there, but it used to be like a sex club.
Cool.
Right? There's like in New York City, there are even now sex clubs. So there's just like, you have exposure in these places, in these big cities, many places in our country that doesn't exist. So I think that it's just something that we need to make it more. You know what's making me think of 50 Shades of Grey?
Oh gosh.
Right? Remember when that came out? And I'm reading it and I'm like, this is so vanilla.
Yes.
It blew off the shelves. So people want to understand, and they're curious, and they're right. It was somehow in the middle of the country, right? These like places that don't have this kind of exposure. They were all reading the books about how to have, build a sex room, and what does it look like to spank?
Yeah. Yes. And 50 Shades of Grey is such a bad example of kink, and there's so many boundary crossings in that are so problematic, and yet people are like, I love this, and I'm like, oh god, so much work to do around consent, so much work to do.
Oh my gosh.
And you're so right, people are like clinging for it, and more and more and more, and it makes sense, in terms of our life force, energy, and drive. Sex is a huge force of energy in our lives that can compel us to do truly wild things. Some people will destroy a family and a whole commitment that they've made for that, right? And, I absolutely support non-monogamy within ethical frameworks of consent. And also, it's such an intense pull for people. And so it makes sense that we want to have more understanding, more language around this. And so I see that as really something that should hopefully help people to release shame, because I know that you and I both have the beautiful benefit of having people come to us with all of their secrets and vulnerable pieces, but I just, I have so many clients who say, well, I just don't know why I'm so like curious about this. I feel bad. Like, why am I so interested in this topic of sex? Like, why? And I'm like, everyone's interested in this.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to be, right? It's so taboo. It's so, and that makes it even more intriguing. It's like, it's a no-no. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And then it persists, right? If we were told no, we want more of that.
Absolutely. It's like when you tell the kids you can't have the cookies. Yeah, exactly. Put it on the top shelf. You know what they do when you're gone?
Right.
Woo!
They'll do anything they can to get to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do we, I guess it's like, how do we normalize it more and encourage people to take more risks around it and not be so fearful? And the shame, which you touched on too here, is where they break up families, because that comes from a place of shame, right? If we're just honest about our needs and our desires, and can say, look, this isn't working for me. How can we think outside of the box? How can we figure out how to get our needs met in this arrangement, or maybe not in this arrangement, but let's at least have the conversation and explore possibilities.
Yep.
Instead of cheating.
Yep. Some people would rather die than have that conversation, which is where our work begins, right? It's like, whoa.
The harm that we cause, I mean, mostly ourselves, the guilt and the shame that compounds. And we hurt everybody else, that, you know, all the fallout that comes from that. So we're sneaky, secretive.
Yeah, because we feel like that's the best thing to do to keep ourselves safe at the end of the day. Like, that's always that unconscious drive is like, how do I keep myself safe? I must keep this secret to keep family safe, all of that sort of stuff. But you're right, the devastating consequences for yourself and all the other people when we could have that conversation. And so just as much as you were speaking to the mirror ritual, it's a slow process. I hate the cheesy, it's a journey, right? But the reality is when you are expanding to new capacities of pleasure, it's going to take small little steps, right? Looking in the mirror, feeling uncomfortable, pleasuring yourself in the mirror, learning to pleasure yourself above the bed sheets. That was always something that got me for myself in journey, is like I was living in my own studio apartment and still masturbating under the sheets. And I'm like, what is this?
You feel like somebody might see.
Yeah,
somebody might see you.
He's watching. Yeah, you know what I mean? At least for me.
Or you have photographs of like deceased ancestors. Like for me, I have like a family member and I'm like, oh my gosh, my grandma's on the wall looking right at me.
Totally. And funny thing is, your grandma had sex so that you could be here. You know, like, woo, you know, it's like, so I hear that. And so like, I think normalizing that process of one step at a time. Just one step at a time. What is that next thing, right? We talk about like microdoses, not doing the crazy big psychedelics. What is that next small dose that feels feasible for you? And trusting that there's going to be that nervous system adjustment and stretching into that. And then another important piece that you mentioned was community, right? Finding play spaces, right? And if that is way too much for the chest for folks, right? Finding podcasts, finding books, finding any sort of space where you can surround yourself with more of this content, because just as much as I was speaking to earlier, the ways in which purity culture was deep inside my head because of the school, the friends, the family, when you kind of balance that out with other voices, those too get internalized. And we want to have some sort of balance, right? Not just all of the societal stuff. We need some other spaces to bring in new content that gets internalized.
And also being around people that are like-minded, that are also, right, that you don't feel like you're a freak or you're a weirdo for having these fantasies or desires. It's like, okay, I'm with people who get me. Because otherwise it's like you sit there in that shame and it's paralyzing. So yeah, community is hugely important. And we can't thrive without community and a support system. So even it's like one person that you know that tends to be more open-minded and non-judgmental, to even begin like have some conversations with them. I mean, maybe you'll learn something. It's like maybe they can add to what it is that you're considering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of us just sitting with ourselves, right? And like wondering and
am I broken? Am I weird? Am I normal? The big questions I'm sure you see as a psychologist all the time.
All the time. Another thought that just popped up about just like, you know, the blowing up families and doing, you know, cheating and all this. Today, it is so hard to sneak around because we have like on our, everything's push notificate, whatever it is, text messages are coming in from my phone on my desktop. All sorts of things, messages to my son show up on my phone sometimes. He's an adult. You know what I'm saying? Like wires get crossed. And so it's inevitable that it's going to come out anyway. So in some ways, I feel like it forces us to maybe be more honest, maybe be more courageous and bold to have those difficult conversations. I don't know if it's happening, but I'm thinking probably people are like, you know what? I don't want to even begin to sneak around like this. I can tell it's happening. I'm on the precipice of that and it's too risky. I'm going to I'm going to lean into doing what scares me most, which is the right thing, which is to have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I really feel like the digital age is a huge transformative piece of sexuality and always will be because of what you just said, right? It's much harder to hide. A lot of people share location, right? Stuff like that.
Yes.
Let alone the transmission of ideas that once before you could only get in often in a library inside a school that you had to get access to and pay, right? Like now this stuff is so much more available. And so there is a huge cultural shift. And also we are much more isolated in many ways. And at the same time, the nuance is that we are also very connected. And so you can have so many more dynamics going, right? And so that is all so much change that's coming into our sex and erotic life. And I think that that's really important because sometimes people get into the very like evolutionary sort of perspective of looking at this. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And also, we are evolving constantly. And so what we crave and what we desire is still in a big flux, especially with the liberation of women. Wow. I remember reading data on how women cheat just as much as men, if not more. And that really took off in the 1970s when we had more financial freedom.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. Because now if I cheat, I'm not going to die and be left on the streets.
Right. Yeah.
Funny how that works,
yeah.
Right?
How about how plenty of women watch porn?
Yeah.
I just did a talk on that the other day. Like, they're seeking out porn for entertainment.
Yes. And I appreciate that distinction. You know, when I'm talking with clients about porn, it's how can we understand that it's not bad to look at this? There shouldn't be any shame with this. I think this is actually a beautiful space to be able to explore your fantasies and desires and what sparks that for you and how that changes over time, because that one's inevitable. And also, how do we understand that this is entertainment and not education?
Yes. So that's a very important point. That distinction, because I think the younger generation is using it as a education. That's their sex ed. I've got twins that are 20 years old, and oh my gosh, can you imagine growing up in my house? Just like sex, that I'm doing sex therapy I work from home too. So they could hear me through my office door sometimes and they're like, oh my gosh, mom, you know what I mean? But yeah, this idea that like that is what sex should be like with a partner, and it not necessarily. Not everybody wants to be choked.
Right.
Not everybody wants a cock down their throat. Right? Like this idea too, I don't know what it's called. Maybe you'll know, but like when you take semen into your mouth and you're spitting it out and you're sucking it back up and I remember having a conversation like that, it's maybe some people would enjoy that. But don't make the assumption.
Yeah, absolutely. Right?
So I think that's important for people to recognize that this is like, and you can watch porn in relationship to get folks aroused and excited. You can be with a partner and watch, and it doesn't mean that necessarily what they're doing in the scene is something that just because you enjoy watching it doesn't mean that you want to participate in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some fantasies are truly best in that space of fantasy and not something that we want to live out in our reality. And yeah, I think when we're talking about porn, we can also get more specific about representation of directors, let alone the people in the content, of course. Representation across like bodies, races, types of hair, even for femme bodies, right? Like queerness, all of that. We can talk about that. And also who's directing this?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So is it often like, because I like porn, I'll watch it sometimes, and there's like queer porn, but oftentimes it's I imagine it's sort of like heteronormative.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm wondering how that plays into it. It's like when you're watching a queer film, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, a straight person directed this film. 100%. This is not it. Yeah. No. So yeah, I wonder, I'm just thinking now, I haven't thought about that exactly what you just brought up, but I think, yeah, it's probably pretty hetero.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, yeah, it's often very hetero, often, yeah, a lot of aggression, as you had spoke to, which is great if it's consensual, but we need balance. Where's the balance of all of that? And then often, yeah, it's like so hard to find someone with a full bush, you know? I'm like, where is that? Like, this is like all, you know?
It's not in style right now. It's like, oh my gosh, that reminds me. I was a few years ago, I went in to get a tattoo cover up. And my tattoo artist, who I've gone to several times, he had the hairiest. It was like Penthouse or something. Chick on the wall that had the hairiest bush ever. I'm like, wow, I forgot that was actually what was most desired. That was what was popular. I think it was like the 80s or 70s. But you know that's going to come back in style. And then all these women will have lasered. There's no hair left because they've lasered it off. It's like, oh no, it's a trend. So yeah, I mean, it's going to come back, and it always does. It's a cycle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. And even in that process, like for me, I've recently been exploring like growing out my hair, and especially in like my legs and my armpits. And I was just exploring. I was like, I've never tried it. Let's see how it sits for me. And as I've looked at it, I've been like, oh, like my legs look so gross. Like, wow. And I'm so sad that that's the thought. And then I'm like, right. Internalized systems. Right. And so I've been like just allowing the hair to keep growing out so that I can get to that space of like learning to love it. And from there, if I would like to shave, that's a space of empowerment. Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I like that because you're just like riding the wave of like all this programming, slowing down and noticing.
Yep.
And getting,
no sudden movements, waiting, tolerance building. Let's get to the space of pleasure and then some freedom, right? What do I want to do from here? That's a very different space.
Yeah, I love that. Like, let that sink in.
Yeah, I know. And then I was like, what would my mom say, right? Like, oh gosh, you know, so like that's how deep the relationships go. And so when I think about, something like porn, when you're only watching films in this one way, like we are such deep narrative beings. We're always making meaning of our experience and story. And so we look to others. We look to other stories of what is possible. And so if you're in a paradigm where you're never talking about sex with your people in your circle, this is the one space you go, and then you only see one type of content. And we know that in like history books, even like who's writing the history books, and that shapes your whole concept. Again, Christian culture, you know, evolution, I was taught was very wrong. All that stuff that, you know, like they taught me deep, right? So with sex, when we're thinking about what we're watching, like what would it mean for folks to, know the thing that gets you off always, like that's consistent and reliable. And what's that like space of curiosity? What's that scene that you haven't seen that you could explore and kind of sit through some of that discomfort, just as much as we sat through the discomfort of the mirror ritual, not in a way where we're ripping the muscle, of course, to be very clear, but what does it mean to stretch your zone of the erotic?
And be uncomfortable. Like it's guaranteed it's going to be uncomfortable. It's like fantasy, right? There are people that can fantasize internally without even touching themselves and get off.
Magical.
Amazing, right? Like that didn't just happen. I think it's like a muscle that you learn how to do that so that you can get in there and really feel it in your fibers, right? But to get to that point, I think if it can feel uncomfortable. For those of us who are fortunate enough to like fall into fantasy and like just be in a relaxed way, maybe at a young age, we're able to just experience it and build that muscle and that ability. Skip over the discomfort.
They're lucky. Yes, they are lucky. Absolutely.
But for more of us, it's got to be something intentional where you're willing to, like you said, be uncomfortable.
And I think that's where the clinical psychology background that we share is so powerful, because sometimes I was deep in that training going like, damn, I wish I would have gotten a PhD in sex. I wish I would have gone that route. Damn. But also there's so much beauty, I think, with the clinical psychology background, which is so wide, to take all of that information and then funnel it into transforming a space like this, because we know that neuronal pathways, you know, that you have to use them, right? The practice of actually firing that pathway like a muscle, the more you lift it, the more you build that. And so my supervisors would talk about trying to build new neuronal pathways, whether it's from depression or anxiety or getting more comfortable with sex. The first time you try to think in that different way, which is maybe gratitude or less shame or whatever it is, it's going to feel so uncomfortable. It's like walking through a jungle of weeds and bugs and all these vines, right? Compared to maybe the space of shame is this really well cut pathway, because you think that so often. So you're like, cool, I can just walk right there. And so if you're wanting to go in the other direction, it's like thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. And you have to, like you said, have compassion, let the clouds, the thoughts pass, and then keep going deeper, because you're going to build more of that pathway. And then one day you're going to wake up and it's going to be so well walked that that is the path you go. And the other one will start to get all covered with jungle and weeds, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So you're creating a new pathway. I always say, get the machete out.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of debris in the way. There might be fallen trees. You get ready to climb over and climb under. And so I love it. You use a similar analogy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and there's neuroplasticity.
Yep.
So our brains grow and they can change. And we want to be doing that actively to stay healthy. Our brains need to be flexed. Mm-hmm. We keep doing the same exact thing day in and day out. That's not ideal. It's like if you're sedentary and you're sitting in a chair on a couch.
Exactly. Absolutely. So taking that movement, taking those moments of stretching. And, you know, I remember the first time I had gone to brunch with some really lovely, amazing people in my community. And they were like, what fantasies do you have right now? And I had never been asked that question from my friends of like, what fantasies? Not, you know, I think it's so much more common to come into spaces with friends, especially women, and really complain and like say, this is bad, this is frustrating, this is that, right? This sucks, versus what are some of the things you're actually excited about? And at the time I was in grad school, so I was like, I want to finish grad school. That's actually the biggest, you know, erotic fantasy I have, is to get out of this thing. But it was such, you know, it was something that stuck with me of like, what am I? Nothing? Wow. Okay. Let me start flexing that muscle. What do I want to dream about? What things excite me? All of that, right? And so to be able to process that in community, transformative.
Yeah. It gives you permission to be like, to take risks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as you said, it's about play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you say more to that? How do you describe that for folks who are trying to understand what it means to play in their erotic life?
Yeah. So I think it's trying to get out of like every day, right? Day to day, we're like, we have to be, here we are, we're psychologists and we're professionals and we have to, you know, present a certain way, to kind of let that melt off a little bit, like be able to, or just even take off that persona.
Yeah.
Right. And allow yourself to be silly and not feel like you have to get it all things right, and not right. Feel like it almost makes me think of like ecstatic dance. You know, like,
yes.
Feel your body, get in touch with what it's like to be moving in your body. And you know, when they do, like, I remember this was like, I don't know what grade I was in, maybe 5th or 6th. And they said, okay, you know, turn into a tree, you know what I mean? Like, and do this position and that. And I remember we were all looking at each other. We were so uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. As we get older, I think it even gets more awkward. Yes. We get, right? We feel more fearful of judgment. Like, we feel more concerned that our tree is going to look stupid, even more stupid than we thought when we were in 5th grade.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So figuring out how to just like go with it just go with it, and around people in community where you know that they're doing the same thing. You're not alone in it, and allow yourself to be silly and get it wrong and fall on your, you know what I mean? Like, say something or do something stupid and realize, you know what? It's okay. No one laughed at you. No one rejected you. We're all still here. And oh, look over there. Someone else is just whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And you know, you're noticing your reaction and just go for it. And don't feel like we're not perfect. None of us are. We're pretending to be perfect. So yeah, just like the idea of, hopefully that answers your question. But the idea, when you think about playfulness, I think you've got to be willing to like be silly and kind of be stupid and silly, basically, and be okay with it.
Right. And if doing that in the erotic space feels way too wild, do it in your day-to-day life. What a great play space to just try that. There is a real reason why theater folks have very fun, playful sex. Right? Like they practice all of that, the goofiness, the releasing, the sound. And so there's some of the like kinky, wildest folks I've ever met is theater people.
Yeah. Because that, again, there's the flexing the muscle. They're used to it. They've been surrounded by it. It's okay. It's like, this is all good. This is acceptable. So yeah. So what would you, I guess, what for our, for your listeners, like what would be, I'm trying to think of like something that's not so intimidating, an environment to be in that maybe is not starting with like a sex environment where you can be like, there's got to be spaces. I know ecstatic dance is one of them.
Contact improv.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is a lot of body movement and just playing off of people in that space. It's like very theater in that way of being able to do that. And even any sort of dance space is probably a bit of that, right? Like go to a dance and shake and release, even that play. I know some people that do like D&D. That's more a space where people do like role play and stuff like that. Yeah, because I mean, look at the way, again, as kids, we have recess, right? And then middle school, we still have some recess, maybe, depending on your school. High school, no more recess. And then you go to your job for 8 hours and it's like, sit at your computer, do this, and make sure you button it all the way up, right? Because this is a professional space. So like, for us to forget how that impacts us when we know that eroticism is so deeply connected to play. It breaks my heart when so many people blame themselves. And I'm like, hold on, take that step back. And do you see the system? When did recess get cut out of your life? When did that creative practice that you had, when were you told that that was not profitable and therefore you should no longer do it?
Yeah. Like, how is that productive? Right? It's like, we got to be productive and make money and go.
Right. So this sex better be productive. I better come in 5 minutes and it better be done by 10,
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that just brought up, and there's so much. I mean, there's so many things that come up, but the idea that like, it takes women longer to orgasm. But in the, in the movies, in the media, no, in porn, it's like, oh, we can just multiple orgasms again and again and quickly. And it just, so then what does that do? It gives people this misperception.
Yeah. Right. And so the internal dialogue that people often I see in my room is, I'm taking too long. I'm taking too long. I'm taking too long.
Yeah. And oh no, like I don't, then starting to worry about their partner, thinking like, right? Like, oh, they're going to think that they don't do it for me. And then the idea of like faking orgasm because it's taking too long. And now I have to, let me just pretend. Fake it.
My heart.
Right. So what does that do? It then, right. Then it hurts both individuals because one, she's not getting off. And then their partner doesn't realize it. And isn't able to, isn't able to figure out how to. And maybe they were fine with taking a long time. Like, it was okay. But, so there's just this idea that it's supposed to look a certain way. And then we fall victim to that.
Again, because we want to be accepted. Please, partner, accept me. I want to perform in the way that is acceptable, right? And so getting into that safe partnership where you can release some of that, right? And let go of some of that. That's the transformative work. And I think about deconstructing the intimacy escalator, like that expectation of, attraction, foreplay, penetration, orgasm. And I love the word play. Just like cross all of that out, throw it away, burn it, and then bring back the word play, right? And play is not linear. Play might have 3 orgasms and it might not have any. It might be a hard cock or a soft cock, right? Like all of that is play. And maybe the most erotic space that you're feeling is in between your elbows today or the back of your knees, right? Like it doesn't always even have to be the genital space, right? And so there's so much scripts and narrative, and I just want to like burn it all and come back to a playground, right? Like with your body and the people that you love.
Yeah. So that's another good point too, the erotogenic zones in our body. They're so but we don't even think about that. We're focused on the genitalia and you know what I mean? Yeah. Right. It's so many like elbows. Yeah. Like all of this, like, neck. I mean, there's just, for everybody, it's different, but we don't spend enough time in those areas.
Yeah, especially when you're like, I got 5 minutes. What are you doing licking my elbow? Right? Like, what are you doing over here? But ideally, like maybe stepping into a space of, losing the frame of this has to be orgasmic and maybe stepping into more of a frame of curiosity. What am I noticing? What sensations are coming up for me? And then just feeling that. And that actually being the goal.
Yes. So again, like mindfulness, I think if we can really like focus on just noticing that because it's normal. It's a normal state of being to just have like thoughts that distract us.
Right.
And to just bring ourselves back continuously, staying in it.
Absolutely. It's
seeing it through all the way, right? Even if it feels like it's taking forever, just be with it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Just notice, just open awareness meditation essentially is what I'm thinking about, the benefits of doing more open awareness meditation, which is something we frequently recommend folks to do before a psychedelic experience is just go out because, you're going to be in that state. Like, let's just be open to it all, right? So go out into the world, and rather than the meditation of how do I quiet the mind, you're actually just noticing. Like, what are you noticing? I'm noticing the sky, the trees, the person walking the dog, right? And so that kind of building that awareness. And so if we could bring that into our sexuality of like, what am I noticing with this? What am I noticing? And right. And then that narrative pops up. Oh, I'm taking too long. Oh, okay, back. What am I noticing? I'm noticing this. I'm noticing that, right? And building more of that, like essentially awareness to your somatic experience.
You just brought up psychedelics, and I'm thinking the other thing is like using that as an adjunct to just like help facilitate and, doing some journey work around it so that you can become like, it will help build that muscle and it helps you move into a state of curiosity way quick, like expedited, right?
Yeah.
Way quicker.
Yeah.
You just dropped into it.
Yes.
Which it takes us so long on our own without any assistance to drop into that. So this is why I'm so grateful. I'm just almost like ecstatic about the fact that it's like mainstream. It's become a part of, many people are aware of it. They're talking about it. People that you would not have otherwise even thought would be open to it are interested in it, engaging in it, telling their friends about it. And it's just amazing how it's opening people up and allowing them to love themselves and love others more deeply. So when I think about sex and how a lot of us are kind of burdened in a way by our, the messaging that society has given us, our families, our religion, our culture, all of that, can maybe explore really a safe space, right? Like somebody
Right.
who's licensed, a professional that like, you know, you trust and can guide you in this way. So you can drop into a space where it can like help you build that muscle even quicker.
Yeah, huge, transformational, life-changing. Right. And the right set and setting, there's so much work that you can do there to be able to explore. And the reality is a lot of people also have sex on psychedelics. I think there are some that are more feasible to do that on versus others, of course. One of the ones that is a legal psychedelic, you know, cannabis, right? That's a huge one that a lot of people do play on, right? I know people with MDMA, right? For sure. Even psilocybin, right? And so obviously there's so much context there. I had an amazing conversation with Britta Love years ago, dear listener, if you can go back, and we really got into the nitty gritty of safety and harm reduction around those things, because the reality is there's so many moving pieces. If sex itself is already complicated, we're adding in a whole nother variable that can bring so much risk and safety there. And also when you're in a safe environment, right, there is often a space of play that can also bring when you're in that safe environment. Big asterisks, right? But that can also really bring a lot of play into folks, because it gets us out of our default mode network. And so that alone, you know, kind of in the same way that someone likes to take that one glass of wine before they go into sex, right? Because it loosens some things up. There are also a space for that with psychedelics, where some people really report having a lot of more play in that space, of course, with a huge risk and asterisks of that, but safe containers.
Yes. I think it just gives you freedom. Like you're not so in your frontal lobe.
Right, exactly.
And you can just be, you know, feeling and connecting and open. It opens a pathway that is very hard to get to otherwise.
Absolutely.
So life changing. I've had the experience of it with psilocybin, and I'm not trained in administering it as a psychologist in any way or anything like that, but I'm a big proponent, I think, especially with trauma. And, you know, it's so restorative, so healing. There's a lot of, you know, sexual trauma that also, we didn't even touch on that, but it's a big part of it too, right? Like,
absolutely.
Feeling disconnected from your body, dissociating, depersonalizing. That's like, it's an automatic thing that happens. And it's very hard to be present. We're talking about mindfulness and being present. If there's trauma that's not treated, right, then like people may be listening and like, well, I try that and it doesn't work. And it's like, yeah, because we've got to treat the trauma so that you work up to this, right? And you can, for anybody who's listening, you can absolutely repair and heal. And, you know, I think with journey work, it makes like, it's like, I always say, it's like 20 years of therapy. Huge.
And so integrating all of that is like the biggest piece of that, right? Is like, how do we talk about that, integrate that into our lives? And yeah, when I think about the trauma piece, I'm always just going to shout this out, that your body is trying to keep yourself safe, right? Because I know that's such a big piece for something I've experienced, and also so many clients of like, why? And do I still feel this way? Why is my body betraying me? It's like, actually, your body's really trying to keep yourself safe. Yeah. Right. And so in my own journey with psychedelics, I know I had mentioned like the sexual trauma all the way back from purity culture and that experience. I remember a psychedelic experience I had again in the beauty of my small, tiny studio apartment in Chicago. And I was laying on the floor naked. And what was coming to mind for me was, why do I still feel fear in my body? I am safe. I am at home right now. No, like I've cleared off my calendar. Why am I still afraid? Huge experience for me then to just release that. And I don't think I knew how much I was holding until I was in that non-specific amplifier state of really feeling that tension in my body. And so Yeah, there's some really transformative experiences when you're in a safe environment. And when you have, if you're ever doing alone like myself, now I know there are things like Fireside where you can call. There's hotlines, so you have support, Didn't know those things when I first was going, you're just exploring. But so much healing that you can do when you really reconnect. But as you said, there can be trauma that's so there at the front that needs to be discussed first. And so finding that safe container where you can be held in that, because it can bring up a lot of content. And I hear you with holding that distinction of the messy parts of healing too, right? Because I think so many people think, wow, psychedelics, I'm going to do this, I'm going to play, I have this great time, I'm going to heal. And the reality is that we both know is often it can be scary before it's bright.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's a process. Like most things, it's a process. It's not like one thing is going to fix it all. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this is a tool, this is a way, a part of it. And, there are other things that we have to do, but it's definitely something to really consider, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to mention earlier, too, when we were talking about play and what it means to bring in more sensation during play, I love Betty Martin's The Wheel of Consent. Yeah, such a powerful piece. And dear listener, there's an episode back in the catalog that you could go nerd out full detail on that one with her. And I think one of the important parts of that wheel is also finding pleasure in giving and what it means to do that. And so I think that so many of us, I think about, we're working on what does it mean to feel pleasure in the body and notice that for myself. And also, what does it mean to find pleasure in giving, right? When you are sucking cock, what does it mean to not just be thinking about what the cock is feeling, but what are you feeling in your own mouth and the cheeks and all of that sort of stuff on your tongue, right? I feel like that's a whole neuronal pathway that so many of us, especially women, femmes, myself included, forget. We're often like givers and givers and givers, and that's beautiful too. We want balance of receiving, and also in the giving, where's your pleasure in that too?
Yeah, love that. Yes, because there's plenty, right? Many of us love to, that's a lot of it is the giving, right? We focus on what we're giving, but there's pleasure in it for us too. And I think if we're not paying attention, we miss out on noticing of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, what about the permission to even enjoy it?
Yeah.
And acknowledge that. Is that okay? To be like, I love your cock, or I love to have your cock. Like, is that, it feels more, right? I don't know if people feel, I get the sense in my work that there's a lot of discomfort around acknowledge it, right? Being like, yes, I'm enjoying this too.
Right. I think a beautiful example of that is I just had my birthday and someone was like, oh, sex therapist, I'm going to get you a sex game. I thought that was very sweet. And so we started to play the game, and it had a couple of questions. It's like a card deck, you're pulling cards. And a couple of times the answer was spit or swallow. And I said, spit, swallow? What about linger? What about linger? Is anyone else lingering? No, it's just spit, swallow, get that shit out of me. Like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what is the paradigm that we're in here?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good observation, because, it's like so black and white. Like, doesn't have to be that linear. It doesn't, there's more to it than that.
Right, but the game reflects the majority culture, right? So I thought that was like a really good dichotomy, and it's such like a negative space.
Yes.
I feel like one thing that I have to mention in any good sex education talk is also lube. And I'm curious. Oh my God. I know. I was like, we can't let this conversation end without at least some discussion of lube. And so curious what you say. Yeah.
That's just, here's what I say. Love. Lube enhances so much. So don't be afraid of it. Get a good quality lube. There are different types of lubes too for what you want to, right? Like if you want to have anal play, you want to have a different viscosity.
Right.
The smoother and the juicier and the wetter, right? It can there's less tension, less friction. Feels great.
Don't
be afraid of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many of the narratives I feel like are, I'm broken, right? Especially as a vulva owner myself, right? Is that something I struggle with a lot of? Like, if I'm not wet, like I'm failing, I am broken, there's something wrong with me, or there's something wrong with my partnership. Right. Oof. Yeah. It
or
sounds
your
like
partner thinking, well, you're not wet enough. What am I doing wrong? Are you not into me? You're not attracted to me?
oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. It's like, I can't control my wetness. Yeah. Like hormonal, like everybody's different. Some people get more wet than others. Also, stress is going to interfere with how wet you get, right? So I think it should always be accessible. Yes. Should be in the nightstand, wherever, like, and even if you're feeling like, oh, I feel a little dry, go ahead and get it, and that even your partner has permission to even get it. And it's not like anybody needs to feel ashamed about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My partners have all been clearly instructed where I say, always lube. I don't care how wet I am. Always lube. More. I take, yeah.
Like, I don't know. What's the let's just talk about this for a second. Like, can you use too much lube?
Staying in the sheets for sure.
Oh, staying in the sheets.
Because the silicone's hard to get out, sometimes.
So I don't like silicone only because of sex toys. It ruins your silicone, your nice, expensive $300 dildos or whatever, vibrators. So, but the silicone lube too is better for anal sex, right? It's like that, just more viscous, and it doesn't dry up so fast. But yeah, it stains. That's right.
It does come out, but I have noticed some of my sheets have held. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, reminders of a great time.
That's all, right? Yeah, I love that you brought that up. Yeah, I'm a big proponent. Go for it. And also just trying different ones. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What a fun date night.
Yeah, like, don't just go, what is it? Walgreens has that. Is it Astroglide?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Whatever, they have like one, maybe now they've got 2 or 3, but like go to a sex shop, go online and go to, like, there's so many great online shops and they have like 200 different lubes to choose from.
Yeah. What a fun space of exploration. Let's try some penetration with this one. Let's try some penetration with this one. Let's see what resonates. And then even the play of every different night. Like, maybe I want this one today and this one tomorrow, right? Like,
maybe I want heat tonight. Don't some of them heat up?
Coconut oil, great for that too. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Many of us already have that in our cupboard.
Yeah, that's always the go-to when I'm somewhere and I forget. I'm like, do we have coconut oil somewhere in this kitchen? Like.
Yeah. I'm always talking about sex toys and lube and all that. It's like, why not? I mean, you don't, even if you're somebody who's like, I like to be natural, go natural, once in a while, it's kind of fun.
Sure. Absolutely. 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 And I feel like I want to ask you the question that I know the answer to, but I just don't think it can be stated enough. So, doctor, I'm concerned if I start using this sex toy, am I going to just become numb to anything else?
Oh, I love this question. Thank you for asking it.
You know that question.
Yeah, I do. No. So the thing is, here, I'm gonna just, you can, if you overuse a vibrator and you're masturbating 2-3 times a day. I mean, I've had periods at that point myself. And you can kind of get a little desensitized. Like, the nerves can get a little sleepy. I call them sleepy. They're kind of like, they get overstimulated and they get kind of desensitized for a small period. So if you lay off of it a little, or even get one that has a different vibration, change it up. Because it's got the same vibration for so much repetition for so much time, it can get a little numb, but it's not permanent, temporary. Take a break from it and then pick it up again, and you'll see that you're going to be able to experience wonderful pleasure again. So don't be afraid of it. Use it. And if you start to get numb, okay, I need to take maybe a week or 2 off or change it up.
Right. It's like a tolerance break for drugs, right? Like you take a tolerance break, you come back and you're like, whoa, okay, right? And so, some tolerance to come back and then really feel that stimulus again.
The other thing I want to say, because I know that sometimes this comes up too in my practice, which is, well, my husband is concerned that if I use a dildo or a vibrator on my own, that I'm not going to desire him anymore, or that he's not going to be able to get me to climax, or, you know what I mean? That basically my toy is going to replace him. And, I say, okay, like you've got to sit, you got to have this is where you got to talk, you got to educate and talk it through and help them understand. I mean, we were not given the information. We were not educated, and they don't know. So explain. No toy is going to replace a person that you love and you're intimately connected to.
Right.
A device that has batteries isn't going to replace that.
Yes. And there are some great toys that can fit while experiencing penetration.
Yes.
With that partner. Yes.
Yes. It just kind of elevates. It can make it exciting and different and interesting, and not something that, you may want to use it all the time. And maybe it's just something you bring in once in a while and you do it together. So it's not going to replace anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I love like going like natural first orgasm, and then after that bringing it into, like, that's such a fun, like, for me in terms of like keeping the sensitization, like first fingers, then go like, and you can go so much more because vibrators are wild,
Yeah.
Wild.
Yes. And like, just slow down. Like we don't have to rush to get to, right? We're all trying to rush to get to climax.
I know.
Let's just hang out and be like, really explore and just be in it. Not rush it. Everything's rush. We're even breathing shallow breaths all the time, like in the top of our chest, because we're all running.
Right.
Deep breaths. Yeah. So it's so easy to say that and so hard to practice it. So it's just, we got to be intentional.
Right. Absolutely. One of my favorite questions to ask on the podcast too is for, like, you have so much wisdom and insight now at this point in your life. I'm curious if you'd have any words of wisdom to your younger self around sex and relationships.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
My younger self. I feel for her so deeply. I think grace, like giving yourself grace and compassion, kindness. I was very hard on myself as a kid. Like I grew up with pretty, like in the fashion industry, grew up with a lot of I was never tall and skinny with small, like I was kind of not large, but average build. And so there was a lot of like body shaming. I would shame myself. And so just my little self, my little Frankie would be, I would want her to know that she doesn't have to be perfect, and that she's beautiful just the way she is. And and just to love oneself, and no, like I look at photos now and I'm like, I wish of myself back then. Right. And I'm like, I didn't even realize that I was so pretty. I was too busy picking myself apart. And now I look, you're talking about like 25, 35 years later, you're like, I wish I had only known then what I know now when I look, So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. What a beautiful invitation for yourself moving forward too, right? In the here and the now, to keep that, as well as when you look back, and all of the listeners who can be inspired by that. And so much of what we spoke to with the neuronal pathways is right there in that conversation too, right? If you're constantly looking in the mirror of like, here's where I'm lacking, here's where I'm lacking, here's where I'm lacking, you're missing the beauty of everything else that is going on. And I've definitely had like, it's always an ongoing conversation. Of course, there are days where sometimes you have that negative influence. It's gotten a lot better over the years, but I remember having a very like stern level conversation with myself in a loving way of like looking in the mirror and saying, are you going to hate yourself for the rest of your life? This is the only body you get. Are you going to spend your whole time hating it?
Yeah.
Got it. okay, let's start a new narrative. Even if it's uncomfortable, I'm going to keep walking in that direction and making that pathway.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So important because there's plenty of messaging, right, to the contrary, all around us that is telling us that we don't fit that idea of beauty.
Buy this product and you will be fixed.
Oh my gosh. It's like the largest, the cosmetic industry.
Oh, my heart.
I think is one of the largest money makers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say about how we see and feel about ourselves?
Absolutely. Taking a deep breath for that one.
Yeah. Makes me sad, of course. Like I feel tearful, because it sucks, for women, for us women. Not easy. Yeah. And I thought for a while it was getting better. And then I don't know. Then the Kardashians came on the scene. And I was like, now we're going backwards. But the variety is what makes us all so beautiful. The differences.
Yes.
We don't all want to look like the same. Like that wouldn't be interesting. So boring.
And as you reminded all of us, having compassion for yourself, because as we're speaking to, there's so many systems that are quite literally profiting off of that insecurity, packaging that and selling it to you every single day. And so when that thought comes in of judgment in the mirror, rather than going, why am I thinking this again? How about we point the arrow upward and say, right, I'm in a system where this is what I'm constantly sold. This is not who I am authentically. I'm going in this direction, right? That distance from that internalized system in our heads.
Yes. Because it's pulling on you and it's unconscious. You're not even it's like you've got to slow down and notice it, because otherwise it's just an automatic thing. Because it's a force that it's all around us.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So as a teenager, I didn't realize, I didn't understand.
Right. I'm so glad that you're able to speak to all of this now, right? I'm so glad. And as we're coming towards the end of our time together, I want to take a deep breath with you. And I want to check in and see if there's anything else that you want to share with the listeners. Otherwise, I have a closing question.
I thank you all for being here with us today. I think we talked about so much, and there were so really important things I think came up. And Dr. Nicole, you asked great questions, which I love.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just happy to be here with you all, and whoever is tuning in, I'm just I applaud you for being here.
Yes. Sending so much love to that expansion process and that stretching that you're doing, and being here is already the beginning of your journey in that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So the closing question that I ask every guest is, I know. And I swear, I say this so many times that now I can't even say it like a normal human. You know what I mean? Where you just say something too much. So I'm always trying to be as natural as possible. What is one thing that you wish other people knew was more normal?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That I wish other people knew that was more normal. I think that because we're talking about sex, their most craziest thoughts or fantasies are actually pretty common. You're thinking, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me that I'm thinking this way about this sex act or about this curiosity or whatever? It's oh no, you're not alone. But how would you know? Because people don't talk about it. Right. So you feel like you're the only one.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I remember having Dr. Elizabeth Sheff on the podcast, who another great one, dear listener, to go all the way back to. And she does expert witness testimony work for kink cases.
Oh,
so she's seen some crazy stories in there, and so is advocating for BDSM and all of that. And also, I think she had quoted some research of like BDSM fantasies being in like 70 to 80% of people.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. Yeah, that would have been my guess. Yeah.
And so much shame people have around that fantasy of being tied up or fucked in a dungeon, you know? And so we're holding all of that. And yet it is so normal.
So normal. And I want to say one more thing about this.
Yes.
My number one most popular video on YouTube is about anal sex. And the comments are insane. The criticism, the trolling, the this and that. Meanwhile, it is the most popular video. And I've been doing it 17 years. Videos.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just like, okay, all this negativity coming my way, but everybody's watching it. There you go.
Absolutely. The cognitive dissonance there is a great term to describe what's going on there, right? Tell me about it, but don't.
Right. And you're nasty for talking about it. What kind of doctor are you?
But
you're not a doctor.
Tell me more about it, please. Oh, it's been such a joy to have you on the podcast today, Dr. Frankie. Thank you for joining me and all of the listeners.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure everyone is dying to know, where can they find your content, your videos? Plug away all of your resources, please.
Dr. Frankie Bashan. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I've got all the things. You can just search Dr. Frankie, Little Gay Book. Find me that way. Yeah.
Amazing.
I've been around a little while.
Hell yes. And I'll have all of that linked in the show notes below, dear listeners, so you can just go find all of that right there. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
Yes. Dear listener, thank you so much for tuning in to Modern Anarchy. Thank you for sharing this episode with your friends, with your lovers, with your community. Truly, it means so much to me, and I am so grateful that you are here. If you are wanting to release jealousy in your non-monogamous dynamics and step into compersion and pleasure-filled connection, you can read my book, The Psychedelic Jealousy Guide, for free on my website. There you will also find so many other free resources, including worksheets on how to clearly communicate and set commitments and boundaries within your non-monogamous dynamics, and other ways to practice clear communication about your sexual desires so that you can step into your most pleasure-filled sex and relationships. So head on over to modernanarchypodcast.com to find all of those free resources, and I look forward to seeing you next week.